I have good news and bad news. The good news is your auric field is indestructible, impenetrable. It's like it's encased in a bulletproof glass with ironclad doors that have triple layer authenticity security codes to get in, and around that is an army of armed guards, and there are security cameras at every corner of the stretch. There's a moat between your gates and anything that would approach on the outside. And there are alligators in that moat. There are dragons that circulate, maybe symbolically helicopters or some type of aerial security that circle above to just keep an eagle's eye view of what's going on. And that's just in the flesh and the natural. We haven't even scratched the surface, or could you even imagine what your spiritual protection looks like, given all that much is true? Now, the bad news turns out really isn't so bad for you after all. The bad news is that anything or anyone that would try to breach that security, that protection, without invitation, without clearance, without justification, without jurisdiction, is toast. And one of the ways that I saw that breach, well, maybe perhaps a method of madness that I saw as I was pre-shuffling, it's kind of strange, so hear me out. But I saw that this strategy to project an energy or reality toward perhaps you or whatever target by way of self-affliction of that occurrence, or that not occurrence, but that man, the word is escaping me. Let's just say that effect, right? So if someone wants to project some type of overindulgence to you, or addiction, then as harebrained scheme as this sounds, this is what I saw. This, like, they induce that effect on themselves, like they overindulge in some type of vice or in some type of drug or behavior, or if they want to project like hypersexuality towards you, then they induce that effect upon themselves, and so on and so forth. More or less, you can get the gist of where that's going. It's I don't know, someone must have been mystically or spiritually advised that that was an effective method of madness to create misfortune or disturbance and disruption in someone else, to kind of embody it and perhaps thrust it upon, projectively your intended target. That's one thing. And then as I continued to shuffle, it got deeper and darker, actually, because I offer myself as tribute, right? And what I saw, which was ultimately confirmed by 4 specific cards that plopped out on the table, was like someone almost making themselves like a living voodoo doll, or Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. So it's like all of those energies would be thrust upon one particular person who kind of stands in the frequency of what should be the intended target, or what's ideally the intended target. Like they take on their energy intentionally, maybe not actually, obviously, because I'll share the rest. That probably already seems quite evident. But they'll take on all of the effects, the abuse, perhaps, like all the things that are intended to be kind of like thrust and projected towards someone, or like ritualized against someone that, as I said, volunteers to kind of be like a living sacrifice, or a voodoo doll, or a living representation of that target, so that the offenses have an actual physical place to land, and it not just be limited to psychological or mystical, magical, hocus pocus, um, you know, oogie boogie type stuff. So I saw that as well, which is strange in itself, but that takes it to a whole nother level. And as I said, the bad news is that I don't know who told them, or what examples they may have had to reference of its success. But what's inflicted upon or taken on upon the projector stays with the projector. And with anyone that is in collaboration, or collusion, or agreement with anyone that is, even if not, as tribute themselves, is in the line of fire to ultimately absorb those effects themselves as well. So, as I said, it's twofold. The intended target or victim, and the intended victim of projections, is situated behind layers of protection that are equipped to meet any effect, any attack, any attempt. So that's already one thing, which means that any energy that's projected is effectively resisted or repelled, certainly, in some ways at least, disarmed or disabled from causing harm in the way it was intended to. But then the other side is that if that energy is not landing in one regard where it was intended to, then certainly it has to fulfill its life cycle somewhere. And ironically, the projector or projectors are not helping themselves, because instead of curating their own um, dynamic protection, they're actually working to enhance the very effects that they believe were routed elsewhere. And so not only is what's been projected on its way back, if not already returned to sender, is being intensified times God knows whatever, because of the inflicted harm on self, um, that was obviously misinformed or misguided. So it's like literally getting double for your trouble, if not more. That's mildly put, because of the initiation of ultimately just destructive energy that now has no place to go but back home. back to its origins. Oh man. So anyway, that's that on that. um, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Of course, I'm Danae. Today is July 14th, 2026. Let's see, it's 12:36. Oh, it's July 15th. Oh crap. Oh man. Um, July 15th, my bad. 2026, 12:36 on the clock. And yeah, it's just some strange energy, obviously, swirling about. And no doubt, I know it tracks with whenever there's a strong lunation, new moon, full moon, anything of that sort, eclipse, so on and so forth. There's always that duality and polarity that presents itself. Because for all the good that you can do, channeling in alignment with the heavenly bodies and frequencies, there's always the adverse intention and motivation. And so it's no surprise to me that I channel things such as this at times like this when we're, I guess, kind of still in the new moon in Cancer energy, and it's a quite culminating moon and new beginning at the same time. And Cancer being the energy that's so close to home, like literally and spiritually, it just makes sense, that both sides of the spectrum would channel through. So, like I said, depending on what side you resonate with, it really is of no consequence to you, particularly on the higher vibrational side of what people are planning, intending, what they're motivated by, what they persist to do, what they're obsessed with. It doesn't matter, because it's all, unfortunately, self-inflicted more than it is outwardly projected. So as long as and the most protective you can possibly be is living in your own truth and by the standards of your personal integrity, and devoted to your supreme self. So those three checks and balances are in order. There really shouldn't be anything to worry about. So let's see what we got here. I'm gonna cut them real quick. Let's see how else this message picks up. And then we'll go from there. Pardon me, I feel a little tired today. Not like I didn't get rest, but I don't know. Just feel a little tired. Empress, didn't the Empress come out yesterday? First? I think so. My goodness, okay. All right, where we going with this today, Empress? On to retreat, to rest, perhaps? Maybe you're on your way to a vacation, or you need one, you due for one, to just like take a reprieve, a respite from, the hustle and bustle of empresshood, being so just all consumed by the nature of a nurturer. Sometimes they're a lot considered like a mom, like how you just have so many things to manage, including yourself, usually, that it may be time for just like a little break. And it also feels like a crossing over to not even just like a break, a vacation that is temporary, but it feels literally like taking leave to perhaps a space and place, or um, a realization of life, like maybe even a new normal that is consistently peaceful, restful, drama free, hassle free, protected, like set apart from chaos, confusion, conflicts. Like I feel something long term with that. That I even feel corrected on it. Yeah, maybe you are due for a vacation, but it's like having a vacation, like a holiday life. Like life is always on holiday, even when you're working. It's still cool, calm, and collected. No stress. Something like that. Ooh, Ten of Pentacles. Yeah, like escaping this energy here, completely putting it to a definite end. Mm. That's definitely drawn on that escapism from potential harm and attacks, though, for sure. Like where it was intended to land is a place or a space that you no longer reside. So back to what I was that really tracks from what I channeled earlier. So it's like somebody intending to like backstab you 10 different ways at least. And those darts, those swords being well aimed to hit you where it hurts, except there was no accounting for you no longer being, it's like having like the coordinates that someone has to launch an attack of some sort are outdated. It's like they meant to hit you at one particular place that would have put you down for sure, but you've already evacuated that space or moved on to some other safe ground or safe zone or whatever, you know what I mean? And with an escort at that, like with protection in tow, like an armed guard or someone that is securing your safe passage. So not only are those missed attacks where the intel was misguided or misinformed, but there is no um, updated intel on how to regroup and launch a new one, because this is given almost like retreat into some type of secret location that is also extremely secure. So even by the time you were to get the drop on where someone is or where they're headed, it's locked down in such a way that you still wouldn't be able. Spider. Oh no, get out of here. Look at this little bitch. Was one of them real fast ones too, man. Lord knows where he going now. The ones that as soon as you swat at them, they jump. It's tiny, but I don't know. I don't know what his motives are. I want him out of here. But anyway, so how fitting at this time. He went under my desk somewhere. Hope he don't touch my feet. So yeah, anyway. Sorry. you're already somewhere else, say like you're in a secure location. And this could be totally internally. I mean, it is swords here, so it could be someone, like I said, projecting something mentally to, to make you think or believe or imagine that you are in danger or there's a threat or there is something that you should be worried about or an impending um, attack that you would have to do something out of the ordinary or out of character to either um, protect yourself from or respond to. You know what it's like. That's a missed opportunity as well, because the Empress is, again, it's imagined that she has the ultimate protection in so many ways, shapes, and forms. Like her kingdom is protected. And not only that, she would have the means and the methods to be secured like the precious cargo that she is, before anything could successfully do what it means to do, which in this case is clearly to take somebody down. Like signature, like connected to the message yesterday. All right, let's see. Let me get one more here. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's like some like they were celebrating this attack. Like, yeah, we did it. We hit the target. We got it. We got it. And it's like, yeah, you hit the right coordinates. Your missiles or your arrows or whatever it is definitely landed at the proper location, but who you thought would be obliterated in that space was not there. And it's given like energies that pull their resources together. Yeah, like what I was saying earlier, there was a collective consciousness to bring about a certain demise to someone or something, and it was successful in execution. Let's say, that's a loaded word. It was the execution by way of location and even the potency of what was projected was all there, definitely. But there wasn't any provision made for a secret escape plan or a security detail that was a few steps ahead of the plan. So it's like someone scouting the location, like after they then launched missiles, bombs, whatever, detonated something off in the distance, and they're scouting the location and they see there's no life in sight, like that nothing survived the attack. Like for all intents and purposes, it was a success, but not realizing that either no one was there, maybe the land is destroyed, but either no one was there or certainly not who they intended. Like bombing a whole building because you think a particular leader, or a whole castle, let's say, because you think the queen must be inside, the king must be inside, only to realize like actually they were visiting a neighboring kingdom, or they were literally on vacation elsewhere. They had taken a impromptu vacay or holiday to some neighboring kingdom or country. So all, and now you've already showed the enemy's already showed their hand. So it's like this attack what should have been the deal sealer, the one to put everything and everyone out. And it would have if it was meant to, and it was properly informed. But now that it hasn't, it's even more of a detriment to the attacker or projector, because now your tactics are revealed and exposed. Your intentions are exposed. Now you're a known enemy, so it's like you can't retreat from how you may have exposed yourself at this point in time. And now you've put a target on your own back, because like I said, just energetically that energy has to find its way back somehow. Not to mention whatever the retaliation may be on account of those armed forces, armed guards, knights. I almost said Knights Templar, but what do they call in Game of Thrones? The Knights, the King's Guard, or the Queen's Guard in this case. Now it's about to be an all-out attack and retaliation on top of what you're about to get back for exposing yourself and leaving yourself vulnerable to energy that you sent out in the first place. So it's, yeah. Kaboom. That is the result. Just spot all blown up, exposed, vulnerable, unprotected, you name it. Resources depleted because you didn't use everything that you had. Everything was riding on one particular attack or one particular strategy. Completely depleted all energy, resources, and reserves because it was all riding on one impact. And so now it's like you don't even have the energy to regroup, let alone to launch a new attack, because you pretty much about to be picking up the pieces on the backfire that's about to ensue. And then as you're trying to dust yourself off from your own backfire is when the army swoops in when you're most vulnerable and finishes the job, because you didn't have time or preparation or time or energy to prepare yourself to recover or to defend. I don't know. This is a mess. And something about this Three of Cups is like almost so like I was saying, it's something about like the dust settling and revealing like what was real. It's like the celebration, like, yes, success, we made it, we did it, it landed, da da da. And then it's like, I don't know, it's giving me like one of those like war movies or something when they were coming in to launch an attack. You know what? I think there's a Game of Thrones sequence like that, like scene like that too. I think it was when they were going to take what was that, Casterly Rock, and they thought that they were about to obliterate Jaime's army, but they kind of pulled a them on them and moved their army somewhere else, or didn't even go to Casterly Rock because they kind of knew that what their anticipated move was. And so they launched this full out attack thinking, that they had them cornered, and nobody was there. Nobody was there. So I'm getting this like vision of someone, of them being, celebratory, like, yes, we did it, we made it. They definitely executed the attack down. But then as the dust is settling, the surveyor of the land is reporting back like, I don't see any signs of previous activity or life here. It doesn't seem like anyone was here. And it's just like immediate wipe the smile, the grin, the joy off of their faces, because it's like a, oh shit, we just got. And immediately all the things start to download about what this means. It's like, okay, so that means if they're not here, they're somewhere. Are they about to sneak up on us? Or now, we got to regroup, gather all of our resources, all of our manpower, and go where? That you don't even know where they are to go to next. And it was, it's just one of those things where it's like you were celebrating just long enough until the dust cleared, and you realized that you really didn't do anything at all but make things much worse for yourself. And in very uncertain terms, because you don't even know how so at that moment. You just know it's bad. Real bad. Michael Jackson. Damn. Oh, I gotta put this over here because it's just. I wasn't even going to do another one over here, but I guess I was. Yeah, real bad. Five of Cups. We got the Five of Pentacles and the Five of Cups. This is failure on a seismic scale. Misfortune. Again, lack of resources, energy, health, well-being, and then even psychologically being at a great disadvantage, because you go from thinking that you had the jump, the drop, the one up, to realizing that you literally have no reliable intel at all, and no protection, no support that's a viable match for what you're clearly up against, and the prospect of the future that looks really bleak. And the morale is going to be down, say, of your troops particularly, or of your, whatever this accomplished situation is over here, because the morale was riding on this attack being an absolute success. It needed to be, it had to be. Everything was riding on it. So now that it's not, it's like the morale is completely obliterated to, again, to activate some new plan of attack. Damn, man. That's crazy. Here go this spider again. I want you out of here. Here we go. Wow. This was the intended target. This was the army, or the power of the army that someone was up against. That has like a stellar war record. Look at this, the World and the Hangman. that knows exactly how to lead their um their opponent into, this feels like almost like a trap, like finish them type energy, to like hang you upside down because of what? A poor intel or misinformation. And it's like that the energy was lured in to believe something was one way for the purposes of ensnarement. Damn, 101 on the clock. Wow. I think that was the Three of Pentacles. Yeah. That's the war room, the plans, like, all right, this is what we gonna do. That they thought was secret. So what? It's either some type of supernatural mole into the plans, or there is an actual mole, like somebody that's just leaking information and intel in ways that either they don't mean to or they absolutely do. Yeah, it's something like that. That's what I just got from that three of pentacles, because it was supposed to be a sneak attack or something that was that wasn't broadcast or wasn't known, and yet there was plenty of time and opportunity to prepare and to mislead the attack to have it ultimately turn out in the favor of the defensive. Like the defense became an offense. And that's the thing, because it's like I said, then if there's exposure, so it's like now I know exactly what your play is. I know exactly what your methods of madness are, what your strategies are, and I know exactly how to hit you where it hurts because you just showed your whole plan, your whole playbook. Eight of Pentacles. And it's light work. It's light work. It's like a pleasure. To engage in a conflict such as this. That's crazy. Like, consider a warrior like the Chariot energy. Like, this is what they do. This is their career. This is their life's work, their life's mission, their duty, yeah. This is their honor, their oath, everything. It's not even a question of someone's loyalty to the cause that they have devoted themselves to. So that puts a different layer of excellence on the execution, because you're not doing it as a part of some nefarious cause or champion someone else's desires or ideals, like how colluded situations can be where somebody has the harebrained scheme and they feel like there's something they can benefit from it if they go along with it or they participate or whatever. But it usually isn't so heartfelt and this damn spider now is up on the ceiling. It's not usually so heartfelt and sincere of a cause for those that are just in it for the ride or in it for the profit of it all. It's much deeper for the fearless or fearful, whichever applies, leader than it is for those that are kind of just been that've kind of been implicated, you know. Now, of course, the victory overall, for one, is the victory overall for the most part. So if this really were to be a successful execution all around, then it's like, yes, we all win. Cool. It was all worth it. But Lord knows that when it's not, you try to rally them troops again to believe that this time this is the one that's going to work. It's not the same level of passion there as opposed to someone that's defending honor, that's defending truth, that's walking in what they believe is their purpose organically, that is aligned with a righteous cause or a noble cause. There's a different, there's a heightened sense of passion in that regard where you literally feel like, it's personal for you to execute your job, your part in whatever that matters or means to the best of your ability. Like you are committed to success no matter what the opposition or resistance. That's different. That's why it's an indomitable force. It's indisputable, irrefutable. Like that's why the chariot is all up in this mix, because you're not going to win against a chariot and the strength energy. That's will, power, and might. With the world card, which means the divine is it's in alignment with the divine ordinance that it's time for something or someone to come to an end anyway. Is literally like a righteous cause here where the world is concerned to close a cycle so that something new can begin. Literally that 101 that was just on the clock. It wouldn't be in the cards, in the stars, in fate for this attack to be successful to any fatal degree. So of course someone is going to be a mole, someone is going to get the drop, or even have supernatural intel, perhaps intuitive intel of what a next move might be and how to respond, react accordingly, protect, perhaps counter project if need be. Of course. Let me get one more here and I'm gonna move on. It's kind of, and this is, when slavery comes up, it's always kind of like, okay, it's kind of heavy. But it's like the North against the South, and we know the politics surrounding the true motivation, right, of ending slavery and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is that the North was used as a vessel to champion the close of a cycle that was divinely ordained anyway. So, of course, the South was outmatched in more ways than one, because the divine had chosen its victor. It's time for that era to end and for at least some new semblance of freedom, at least partially, to begin. It's given that, maybe on a spiritual level. Yeah, it makes sense, especially starting with the Empress. That's probably the emblem of sovereignty. Like I was saying earlier, like just all the things that come along with just managing your life and the responsibilities of it, taking care of self, taking care of home, taking care of kids, legacy, your position, those that you stand to influence or inspire, whatever. Like all of those things are kind of like par for the course and come with the territory of being a sovereign being, of a sovereign being. And the interferences that make that already somewhat challenging position more challenging, more difficult, that raise the degree of difficulty, are what's now needing to be eliminated and finally disabled and dismembered where it matters. And that's the transitional energy that I'm seeing here with the Six of Wands, where two things are happening at once. There's a disabling of that mal-influential energy that's making it harder to be a sovereign being, and there is a transitioning of those of for those beings, a safe passageway that's being opened to usher you into that space and time where you can't be affected, where you're too far out of reach to be disturbed, especially by these unjustifiable energies of influence. So even though, like I said, the being of an empress might carry its own weight, at least it won't be with all the extra shit. Maybe it can even be that much more of a pleasure to experience than it has been a struggle. Ooh, look at this. Wow. The ultimate transformation here. And this is what it comes down to. It's like, this is the fate that oppositional energy is meeting. Like, activated by this energy here, or not activated, but like actualized by this energy here. It's like when you face with that sort of truth, you're either going to change or you're going to be indefinitely transitioned. Transformation or transition, that's what's on the table here. It ain't no regroup for another round, for another launch. It ain't no find new members or find new accomplices. It's ain't no build up the morale again and promise them something bigger this time. It's no new method, no revolutionary method that can now be employed that would get the job done, especially not at this point. And that's probably why I was picking up the tactics that I was, about inflicting self or choosing a sacrifice to inflict upon. It's like you can activate any particular wild method that you come across, that you read in old grimoires, that you gain from old, practitioners that been doing this for generations and lifetimes perhaps. You can reach back into every bag of magic you possibly can lay a finger on, every tactic that you can dig up, old world and otherworldly, and it still will not conflict with what the divine has ordained at this time. It's already done with the world card. So again, it just reiterates that the more energy that's put behind the attempts is the greater magnitude of self-infliction that is imposed on their own being, on their own operation, on their own well-to-do. It's like making the hole that much deeper to dig yourself out of, to crawl out of, when you already got enough coming to you. Enough of which there's a strong, you know, well, I should say a low probability of survival. And even if you do, it's not going to be without great impact. Like, something's going to change with this death card. Might lose a limb, might lose your mind temporarily, if not indefinitely. Definitely might lose some health, some resources, some support, some focus or vision. It's a lot to be lost here and very little to be gained on account of this disturbing persistence. But if you are so blessed to actually survive the retaliation, of which is mostly, their own doing, their own energy returning back, it's still going to be with a great change to the self, whatever that means to be. And that would be the best case scenario, to just encounter a change and not an ultimate transition. Just so you know, I definitely saw the devil show its face before this death card came out, but it didn't flip, but I saw it. People possessed by the wrong things out here. Here's the Four of Wands. King of Swords. What else? Ignorance is not bliss in this regard. It's like an invitation to come back home to yourself. Come back into the sanctity of divine love, unconditional love for self, if nothing else. Well, I should say first and foremost, to bring peace and balance to your foundation again, like that home life, the Four of Swords. Or to whatever you establish, whether that's your livelihood, your career, your just general well-being, to bring balance back to that. To achieve balance and harmony in that regard is really the only aspiration worth fighting for. Everything else is futile. Moon. That was a Two of Pentacles. Yeah, that's the only thing worth fighting for. The only notable achievement is to find your way to your true self, back in alignment with your spirit, and in harmony and balance with your reality. And it might be a long ways off from you. Somebody might be a long way off from home. But like I said, to keep going about life this way, to forge wins at the casualties of others that there's no justification for, to cut corners, to disenfranchise others for your own personal gain or profit, to implicate others in your nonsense, and especially under false pretenses, because I get the sense that some of these people that are tangled up in contracts and colluding for these false promises of a return or exuberant reward don't really know the totality of what they're signing up for. They may know the surface, they may know what the projected outcome is supposed to be, but they have no idea what they've entangled themselves with, or what they are entangled with, or even who they're entangled with. So, like I said, it's like this is the only thing worth fighting for. Regardless of how far a distance you may have come from your personal integrity, your morals, your goals, your intentions, some may have completely lost the plot at this point in time for their own lives. You can always turn around and go back home. And even though the journey to return might not be so pleasant, and it might even feel a bit scenic, it still is worth taking it anyway. It's the only thing worth taking. And by home, I mean to your personal truth and integrity. Like, what are you even living for at this point? Yeah, look at this. There's the reward. That independence, that sovereignty that I was talking about. This is like the pre-empress, so it said. Sorry, these are not. Oh, my light went off. Oh, sometimes the recorder will go off too. So let me hurry up if the phone gets too hot. Let me get one more. One more. Wow, Queen of Wands. And you know what to do. That's what it's given. Like, for those that may have been led astray, following someone else's passion, you always know at the core of your being what's right for you, whether you refuse to do it, or it seems too hard, or it's not not ideal, it's not glamorous, may even be a bit scary. The moon card did show itself. Certainly mysterious, like an unknown path, but you always know what's absolutely right for you, just innately. You certainly know when something doesn't feel right, or when it's being inspired from a low vibrational place, or not even just inspired, but provoked from low vibrational stimuli. We all know when you're motivated by greed or pride or ego or lust or obsession or jealousy or envy or anger, you know. Nobody can say that they don't know. What you allow, what you make agreement with, what you sign up for, that's a whole nother story. What you, and also in the same vein, what you you disconnect from, disassociate from, denounce, turn your back on, separate, set yourself apart from, is also pivotal, even more so. And that's the type of energy that the divine can make covenant with and actually support you in that return to home, return to self, in a much more expedited journey than what you could ever do by yourself or following an influence that is meaning to lead you in a completely different direction. So let's see what we got. Ace of Pentacles. Yeah. The ultimate gift, the ultimate reward, the ultimate result for your efforts, your hard work, your energy, your labor, your dedication, your devotion. Like when it comes from the divine, like you can count on that. You can't count on what somebody's promising you is going to be your return or your reward on some malintended initiative, you know. But you can, when the divine gives you a promise, you can take that to the bank, literally and figuratively. And the King of Wands, once again, it puts you in a position of creative, I want to say, like, yeah, we got the Queen and the King of Wands that puts you back into the creator seat of your life. Like creative, what's the right word? Like, not dominance, but control, I guess. Yeah, like creative control. Because at that point, just by way of your choice alone to say, you know what, this is not it. This ain't me. I didn't sign up for this. This is not how I thought this was going to go. I feel like, you know, I've been bamboozled, or what I got into this for. And this could even be like just on a regular schmegular scale of life. Like what I got into this for is not what it's turned out to be, or it's not yielding the results that feel like an alignment for my life and my purpose. And just on that account alone, taking that initiative creatively and confidently can bring you what's the right word? Can bring you, not supplement, but what's the word? Not resource, but I'm having such a hard time. I guess like substance, I don't know, but it can sustain you through your journey supernaturally. So even though the road back to your most integral self, or to that place that is ideal, that place that does feel aligned, may seem arduous at times. Like, damn, how'd I end up all the way out here and I'm supposed to be over there? The decision alone to say, I'm headed back that way, can be the thing that the divine will start investing in. So where it is, you should be having a much harder time, maybe even almost an impossible return journey. Like I said, it's right on top of the death card, actually. So maybe that I am saying substance or supplement, like literally for survival's sake, that could be the determining factor of life and death. you know, someone that refuses to turn around, make change, repent, move in a righteous direction, and not religiously speaking exclusively, but integrally speaking. Or someone that says nah, you know, they're going to stick to it, they're going to hold fast, they're going to try to figure out another way to approach to attack the situation, literally whatever. That can absolutely be the difference between life and death for someone, and for making that life's journey that much easier, all things considering, or literally impossible. Literally impossible. And you would need divine provision. That's the word I was trying to, provision. You would need divine provision in this day and age to really help you out, to sustain you for real, in spirit and in flesh. It ain't just going to be manna. manna manna ain't going to be enough, or I should say like man-made provision more than anything, because maybe it might be manna that sustains someone in a wilderness season, but man-made provision, that ain't going to cut it, not in this era. You're going to need some supernatural substance and sustenance just to survive, let alone to ascend. So this is literally more or less like a spread of the have and the have nots in real time. But it's going to come on account of of one's own self-awareness to admit and realize which side of the scale you might actually be on. Because in this case, a have not that happens to have a lot, materially speaking, might be blind to realize that they really have nothing at all. And the opposite is true for those, especially that have had not and sustain themselves integrally all the while. There's a season for having that still gets to be undergirded by your integrity, no matter the exuberance of abundance. Or you could be dropped back down to the have not and have nothing as well. So it's all the same playing field. It really, really is. It's still the same expectation from the inside out, and I guess from the outside in to some degree. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.